Hey everybody, my name's Mike Montgomery, and in today's video, I'd like to show you how to build this DIY expandable garage workstation on Modern Builds. I started this project by using my circular saw and a 12-inch speed square to break down 2x4s into 15 16-inch long pieces. Then I used an 1/8-inch drill bit to pre-drill the locations on my 8-foot long pieces for each of my shelves where those 16-inch stretchers are gonna go. These right-angle corner clamps that you see me using are really convenient whenever you have to screw together large assemblies, especially when you're trying to make them as square as possible. Now typically I'd be using an impact driver to install these screws, but for this project I wanted to do the entire build with just a circular saw and a drill, so that's why you see me using that here. And after one shelf frame was complete, I did the same for 2 more. My legs are made from 8-foot long 2x4s, and I made sure to mark the locations of where my shelves should go on each of those legs. Then, I clamped everything together before screwing it down, trying to get each piece as square as possible before I sank it in. Now this is a big assembly, so I just worked my way around the legs, working on one joint at a time. I'm gonna be using this piece of 3/4 inch plywood to make sure that my leg is flush. Okay, now double check the square. Dude, that's perfect. I used 3-inch wood screws anytime I was screwing from the face of one board into the end grain of the other, and I used 2.5-inch screws anytime boards were face to face. And with that, I could lift this whole assembly, and at this point in the project, everything was really starting to come together. Come on! I've got quite a few sheets of this 3/4 inch radiata pine plywood around my shed workshop, so I'm using that for my shelves. I used my circular saw to break everything down to size, and then I used a whole lot of screws to make sure that this panel sat flat against my frame. I think 1/2-inch plywood would work just as well here, but since I had 3/4 inch, I went ahead and used it. And I should probably mention, if you plan on building this project for yourself, make sure and check out the free plans linked down in the description. And if you do build this, make sure and tag me, Modern Builds, on Instagram. After my shelves were installed, I cut down some more 2x4s for the middle divider between the shelves and the workbench section for this station. I waited to cut these pieces until now so that I could measure them in place and cut them to fit, since I was building with about an 1/8 inch of tolerance on all of my joints. This helped me get a really snug fit, and I screwed everything as square as I could get it. And here you see me assembling this small 24-inch wide shelf that's going to go in that opening that we just made with the legs. I assembled this just like the other shelves, it's just the miniature version, and I put it in place. You can see how the inside legs are inset a little bit, and this shelf is flush with that edge, making it inset about 1.5 inches on the outside leg. And if you are curious, both of my top shelves have a 12-inch opening. But all that and more info is in the plans. So this is a whole lot of storage, but I'm still gonna add a pegboard wall behind the workbench. Let's get started. Pegboard isn't the most impressive storage solution, but it is really versatile, and I think it suits this workstation really well. First, I installed some 2x4s as supports for the back of the panel, and then I used my circular saw to cut that pegboard panel to size. Because this panel is so thin, the more screws you can use, the better, but it is always nice if you can line them out on a grid.
So this would be a really good stopping point if you're just looking for some garage storage with a little bit of space in case you need to do a little DIY or home improvement project. But I'm gonna be spending the rest of this video taking this project over the top, and I'm starting by adding some outlets and lights. And right now I'd like to give a big thanks to the sponsor of today's episode, Trademore. Trademore is a super fast and easy way for you to buy and sell pre-owned electronics. To see what your phone's worth, just follow the link in my description and click Sell a Device and tell them a little bit about it. And from there, you'll receive an offer for your device that's good for 30 days. If you sell, Trademore will send you a prepaid shipping label for your device, and once it's received, you get paid either through PayPal or MasterCard gift card. It's seriously that simple. And with Trademore, you can also purchase premium pre-owned devices that go through a 30-point inspection test before being sold to you. All you've got to do is follow the link down in my description, click Buy a Device, and find what suits you best. Devices from Trademore come with a 30-day money-back guarantee plus free 2-day shipping, which is awesome. Back in the day, I used to keep all of my old phones and devices just in case if I needed to pull some old texts or photos, but nowadays, all of that is on the cloud, so there is no need. In fact, a couple of months ago, I partnered with Trademore and I sold a couple of my old devices, including my previous iPhone, which I sold for $503. Not only is all this great for sustainability, but with Trademore, you can actually save or make some real money. So last time, make sure and follow that link down in my description, and big thanks to Trademore for sponsoring today's episode. Now back to the build.
Now I should start this segment by saying that I am not a certified electrician, I am a DIYer just like you all. So I'm gonna show you what I did, but do not take this as electrical advice. Just be safe. Cool. The first thing that I did was use a spade drill bit to drill holes and to create a groove for routing the wires into the electrical boxes. I'm using this 25-foot long, 12-gauge wire extension cord to be able to plug this workbench into any outlet. I just needed to clip off the female plug and expose all of those wires. On one side of the box, I'll have this cool outlet with built-in USBs, and on the other side, I'm gonna have this dimmer switch that's going to run our lights. I made sure to lay out all of my wires and to create all of my jumper cables. That way I could visualize how everything would come together before installation. While I was putting this all together, I was following this wiring diagram, and I also made sure to reference the instructions that came with my dimmer switch. I secured all of my connections with wiring cap nuts, and then threw everything into the box and put on a faceplate. And then I took the Romex that was coming from that dimmer switch and I led it to another box where I'm going to be installing 2 sets of outlets that our light fixtures are going to plug into. If you're curious, this is the exact wiring diagram that I was replicating, and I followed it to a T. I know electrical work can be really intimidating, and only do it if it's something you're interested in and feel comfortable doing, but it is a really empowering confidence booster once you have a few successful electrical projects. I'm still learning, and I'm trying to figure out the best way of incorporating these steps into my videos so that you can learn along with me. But just like on the last box, once I had everything wired up, I threw it into the box and on a faceplate. After I screwed down that second box, I grabbed my spade bit and I drilled some holes through the plywood shelf so that the plugs for the lights can feed to the box. I found these really interesting 10-inch LEDs at Walmart and I decided to use them. I figured these 3 short lights recessed into the shelves would be much cooler than one long bar going horizontally mounted to the 2x4s. And then I just had to plug them in, and it was time for the moment of truth. Now I want to be 100% transparent here. The fixtures that I bought are not dimmable rated. I should have checked for that on the package before buying them because they do have a little bit of a buzz whenever I dim them. So I've linked a different set that are rated for dimmable in the description. I painted all of my toolboxes the same color, and I used Rust-Oleum 2X in the color French Blue. I think it looks really great paired with all of these wood tones and my white walls.
These metal sawhorses by Tough Built are my favorite. They're super heavy duty and they're really compact once they're folded up. Honestly, they're just really good. And what's cool about this whole workstation is I built it to be the same height as one of the positive stops on this sawhorse, on the bottom edge of this 2x4. Not to mention, if you download the plans linked in the description, they also work for the cheap plastic sawhorses just as well. So the game plan to get some more functionality out of this whole setup is to use my circular saw to break down some plywood into some 4-foot long leaves that are the same width as my workstation. Then I'll use my 12-inch speed square and cut some 2x4s to the same length and screw those onto the bottom of the leaves. And these rails are there to keep everything straight and aligned. My final step is to add a 2x4 laying horizontally on the face of the front 2x4 for the workbench.
The top of this ledge and the top of your sawhorse should be the same height so that whenever you throw up your leaves, you've got a flat, expanded work table. And you can configure it anywhere along the 8-foot length of this whole station.
All right, with that, this project is done.
And there we have it. A year or so ago, I built a mega 2x4 garage workstation, and I took a lot of the principles from that project and I scaled it down into this super compact version that I love. There's just so much storage in this build. I can have a custom toolbox for all of my plumbing, electrical, and assorted gear. Plus, this pegboard wall is a great place to get all of the things that I'm reaching for most often. And honestly, my tool palette has been really minimal since I've moved into this shed workshop, so I'm not sure what I'm gonna fill all of these containers and drawers up with, but I'm sure later down the line, I'll give you a solid shop tour where I go through everything.
Now that is 1-800 Super Pro.
And no, this video is not sponsored by Heart, but I do like the white tools. My favorite aspect by far on this build is the expandability. All you have to do is grab a couple sawhorses from the side of the workstation and then fold them out to the same height as the ledge that we installed. Then, the leaves can go anywhere along the face of this workstation. You can configure it with a single leaf down the middle or either side, or you can use 2 of the 4-foot leaves to make one big assembly table. You could even separate them into a horseshoe shape that's large enough to break down full 4x8 sheets of plywood. Honestly, this project is so versatile.
So thanks a ton for watching, everybody. I appreciate it big time, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, the nicest thing you can do is leave a thumbs up or a comment, or both, and be sure to hit the subscribe and notification bell down below. If you want to keep up with me in between YouTube videos, you can do that at Modern Builds on Instagram. Thanks a ton, everybody, for the support. I've got some awesome videos coming up, so make sure and stay tuned, and we'll see you next time on Modern Builds. On Modern Builds. Oh.